Hello everyone, and welcome back to KTiPs, where we discuss tools, techniques, and ideas to make your development life easier and more productive. Today, we're diving into a topic that has become a cornerstone of modern software development: containers. Did you know that over 80% of developers have faced issues with environment discrepancies? Or maybe you've found yourself in dependency hell more times than you can count? If so, you're not alone, and containers are here to rescue you. If you've ever heard about containers but aren't sure why they're important, or if you're still on the fence about incorporating them into your workflow, this video is for you. And if you're already using containers, I hope to highlight even more reasons to love them. By the end of this video, I want you to feel confident about why containers should be a critical part of your development workflow. And don't worry, I'll also point you to some of my other videos on how to install Docker, set up VS Code, or even configure IDEs like IntelliJ to make working with containers smooth and efficient. So let's get started. The problem: traditional development challenges. Let's first take a moment to reflect on some common challenges we all face as developers. It works on my machine. How many times have you heard or said that phrase? It's one of the most common headaches in development. Code that works perfectly on your machine doesn't run properly on the test server, staging environment, or even production. This problem arises because of differences in environments, different dependencies, operating system configurations, or even conflicting versions of the same library. Dependency hell. Managing dependencies can be a nightmare. If your project requires a specific version of Python or Node.js, and another project on your machine needs a different version, you're in for some painful workarounds. Resource inefficiency. Running multiple applications or environments on a single machine can quickly eat up resources, especially if you're using virtual machines. Each VM runs its own operating system, which is a massive overhead. Scaling pain points. When it comes to scaling applications, traditional approaches often involve significant reconfiguration or even rewriting parts of your codebase. It's time-consuming, expensive, and can introduce bugs. Sound familiar? Containers solve all of these problems. What are containers, and how do they help? A container is a lightweight, standalone, and executable package that includes everything you need to run a piece of software: code, runtime, libraries, environment variables, and configuration files. Think of a container as a box that holds your application and all its dependencies. No matter where you run this box, on your machine, a colleague's laptop, a test server, or the cloud, it will behave the same way. The first reason you should use containers is consistency across environments. This is probably the most significant benefit of using containers. With containers, you can eliminate the "it works on my machine" problem entirely. Containers ensure that your application runs the same way in every environment. Whether it's a development machine, a staging server, or production, the container encapsulates all the dependencies and configurations your application needs. For instance, if you're developing with Docker, which I covered in my How to Install Docker video, link in the description, you can define your environment in a Docker file. This file specifies exactly what libraries and dependencies your app needs. When you run the container on another machine, it will recreate the same environment perfectly. No more debugging environment-specific issues. The second reason you should use containers is portability and flexibility. Containers make your application portable. You can build it once and run it anywhere, on Windows, Mac OS, Linux, or even in the cloud. Imagine you're working on a web app locally, but you want to test it in a cloud environment. With a container, you don't need to worry about reconfiguring the app for the cloud. Just push the container image, and it will work seamlessly. If you're using tools like VS Code, check out my video on installing and configuring VS Code for containers, or IntelliJ. You can easily integrate container-based workflows into your development environment. The third reason you should use containers is lightweight and resource efficient. Unlike virtual machines, containers don't require a full operating system to run. They share the host OS kernel, making them much more lightweight. This means you can run multiple containers on the same machine without the heavy resource overhead of VMs. It's perfect for developers who want to experiment with different environments or run multiple services simultaneously. For example, I often run multiple microservices in Docker containers during development, all on my laptop. With containers, I can switch between projects without worrying about resource conflicts or performance hits. The fourth reason you should use containers is speed. Faster development and deployment. Containers make development and deployment faster. You can spin up a containerized environment in seconds, compared to the minutes or hours it might take to configure a VM. CI/CD pipelines become more efficient because you can build once and test the same container image across environments. If you're working with container orchestration tools like Kubernetes, containers allow you to scale and deploy your apps dynamically. And by the way, Kubernetes integrates beautifully with Docker, something I'll cover in future videos, so make sure you subscribe. The fifth reason you should use containers is simplified dependency management. Containers encapsulate your application's dependencies. If your app requires a specific version of Node.js, Python, or a particular library, you can define that in the container. For instance, in my development workflow, I often use containers to test multiple versions of the same app with different dependencies. It's as simple as updating the container image, no need to mess with system-level configurations. The sixth reason you should use containers is microservices and scalability. If you're transitioning to, or already working with, a microservices architecture, containers are indispensable. Each microservice can run in its own container, isolated from others. This isolation makes it easy to scale individual services independently. For example, if one service needs to handle more traffic, you can spin up additional instances of its container without affecting the others. Microservices plus containers plus orchestration tools like Kubernetes equals a dream setup for modern application scalability. The seventh reason you should use containers is collaboration made easy. Containers standardize how applications are packaged and shared. This makes collaboration between developers, testers, and operations teams much smoother. For example, as a developer, you can create a containerized version of your app and hand it off to the QA team. They can run the exact same container image you've tested. No more, but it works on my machine. Excuses. The eighth reason you should use containers is integration with modern development tools. Containers are designed to work seamlessly with modern development tools and workflows. For example, VS Code has a great extension for working with containers, allowing you to debug and develop directly inside a containerized environment. IntelliJ IDEA offers Docker plugins for managing and deploying containers. I have videos covering how to install and set up Docker, VS Code, and IntelliJ, so check them out if you want to streamline your container-based development. The ninth reason you should use containers is future-proof your skills as developers. Staying up to date with industry trends is crucial. Containers aren't just a trend, they're the foundation of modern software development. By learning to work with containers, you're investing in skills that will remain relevant for years to come. Whether it's Docker, Kubernetes, or cloud-native development, containers are at the heart of it all. Closing thoughts to recap, containers provide consistency across environments, portability and resource efficiency, faster development and simplified dependency management, improved scalability for microservices, seamless integration with tools like VS Code and IntelliJ. If you haven't started using containers yet, now is the time. I have videos to help you get started with Docker, VS Code, and IntelliJ, so check them out in the description. Containers are the future of development. Embrace them, learn them, and make them a part of your workflow. Thank you for watching, and if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to KTiPs.